I've been live streaming a lot lately. It's been a very eventful summer, to say the least. I am Mr. Beat. And if you don't know who I am, I'm a teacher, a history teacher. This is a predominantly American political history channel. I streamed a couple weeks ago. Maybe it was longer than that. It seems like it's a lot longer than that. When Donald Trump announced his running mate, J.D. Vance, we did a stream looking at J.D. Vance and trying to figure out if that was the right choice. Now we are streaming once again because sources are now saying, credible sources are saying, that Kamala Harris has chosen Tim Walz as her running mate. Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota. It's just Walz, right? That's how you pronounce his name, right? See, nobody knows anything about him. This is crazy because even 2 weeks ago, we didn't really know who Tim Walz was unless you lived in Minnesota. If you're from Minnesota, I want to hear from you, especially in the chat. Last time when we were talking about J.D. Vance, a lot of folks were from Ohio or Kentucky and had strong opinions about J.D. Vance. But now Tim Walz is someone who is just... I guess you can call him a dark horse candidate because for many weeks there, or many days, I should say, the leading contender for the running mate for Kamala Harris was Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania. Other names were floated, like Mark Kelly, the U.S. Senator from Arizona. You had Andy Beshear, the governor of Kentucky. You had... Gretchen Whitmer, but she dropped out of the running. Roy Cooper dropped out of the running as well, governor of North Carolina. So a lot of governors were in the talks. You had basically the controversy with Josh Shapiro in the terms of like the fact that he had strong stances defending Israel, and I think some Democrats are worried about that. However, Josh Shapiro is extremely popular, so that's why I was assuming that he would be the pick. The fact that the Democratic Party has gone with Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, has really surprised me. I am genuinely surprised. I did not predict this. I thought there was a much better chance of this happening after reading articles yesterday, and then the betting odds were all of a sudden shifted to say, "Oh, he's the favorite." But no, it's still a surprise for, I would say, a lot of people. Oh, it's confirmed on Harris's website. Thank you, Russ Games and Entertainment. Good. So I feel less guilty for live streaming so early about this because I typically wait until the dust settles a little bit on historical events as they're happening, as breaking news is going out. So thank you for that. Yeah, Pete Buttigieg was also a possibility as a running mate for Kamala Harris, but ultimately it was Kamala Harris who chose this dude right here. I got a picture of him. There he is. He is the same age, 60 years old. Well, Kamala Harris is a few months younger. She's 59, I think. But they're about the same age. So a lot of people have said online that, well, he looks a lot older than her. That I think that is objectively true. But we're going to get to know Tim Walz a little bit more in this live stream and determine, is he really the best choice as Harris's running mate? I already tweeted my answer. Spoiler alert. I think he is. I think that he's going to do really well connecting with, or he's going to portray himself as somebody who's more in touch with ordinary Americans. So we'll get into why, but yeah, I think it's for those people saying, oh, Josh Shapiro would have been a better pick. I think you have a good argument. I think Josh Shapiro is definitely somebody who would have broader appeal, especially among independents. But in terms of like energizing the base of the Democratic Party, similar to J.D. Vance, I think why the Republican Party chose J.D. Vance is because they're trying to get the base of the party excited to show up and vote. I think that's the same idea the Democrats have, because yes, there's this excitement for Kamala Harris. to be president. That we haven't seen this much excitement for a Democratic nominee since probably Barack Obama in 2008, believe it or not. However, some Democrats probably were still skeptical that that was enough, that you needed to also have a running mate that the base would get excited for. That said, historically, and I've said this before, historically, it usually doesn't matter who the major party candidate chooses as the running mate. It has a minor effect on the overall picture of things. Marginal effect might be a better way to put it. However, this election might be different, especially considering that in recent weeks, J.D. Vance's approval rating has been pretty low. He seems to be unpopular with anybody other than the base of the Republican Party. So if you get the opposite effect with this guy, with Tim Walz, then you could essentially end up with a strong victory in November. So what a turn of events for the Democratic Party. I think it was their best choice. So let me get into why. And remember, I'm extremely biased when I'm talking about this guy, because Tim Walz used to be a social studies teacher. I spent 12 years in the classroom as a social studies teacher. Tim Walz literally taught geography. He was a football coach. He was a state champion, apparently. Also, he is from Nebraska. I used to live in Nebraska. So understand my bias when I'm talking about this. Like, I'm going to be biased to think this guy is probably better than he is. That said, let's try to objectively look at him here. And then I saw some super chats coming in. I'll try to answer some questions. I won't be going too long today because I do have a lot of work to do. I was not anticipating live streaming today, but hey, this is fun. I love it. Tim Walz is, like I said, he's a boomer, just like Kamala Harris. We got 3 boomers out of 3 of the 4 as far as the major party tickets. The only youngin is J.D. Vance, the millennial, but Tim Walz is 60 years old, born in 1964. Like I said, he was born and raised in northwestern Nebraska. Valentine, Nebraska, I believe is how you pronounce it. I've been there. I've been through there when we visited the sand hills and the beautiful sand hills of northwestern Nebraska. And he went to Chadron. That's another, Chadron State College for his bachelor's degree. And when he got a bachelor's degree in social science education. That's one of my degrees as well. In case you didn't know, it's up there on the wall. Yeah, one of those. Yeah. Let's see. What else about this dude? So he, after he graduated from college, he took a teaching position in China. He supposedly can still speak some Mandarin Chinese because of that. When he came back to Nebraska, that's when he became a teacher and coach. And that's where he met his wife, a fellow teacher. His wife, Gwen, is also a teacher. They married in 1994. He moved then to Mankato, Minnesota, which is where his wife, Gwen, is from. And he started teaching there as a social studies teacher. And that's where he coached the football team to his first state championship. Notably, in 1999, back when it was really controversial to do something like this, he was a faculty advisor of the first Gay Straight Alliance at Mankato West High School. I think that's pretty notable. It kind of shows that he is socially progressive. We got some Minnesotans in the chat. I like to see it, like Caleb here. At least among those of the more liberal persuasion. Well, yeah, I'm not surprised. As far as other like career paths, he wasn't just a teacher. He also, meanwhile, had enlisted in the Army National Guard. I have a picture of this is from his. This is also from his Wikipedia page. A picture of him soon after he first enlisted. So yeah, both the running mates, the vice president contenders, have military backgrounds. So this is something that hasn't happened for a really long time. Let's see. So yeah, he served in the. Let's see how long he served in the military. He was in the military for 24 years in the Army National Guard, and he's decorated Army Commendation Medal, 2 Army Achievement Medals, and got all the way up to the rank of Command Sergeant Major. Now, he entered politics not until, it's all within the past 20 years. So I want to make sure I get this part right. So he first ran for Congress in 2006. And this was for the Democratic Farmer Labor Party, a party that is exclusive to Minnesota. He had no opponent for that nomination, so he got it. And then he beat the incumbent Republican Gil Gutnecht in the general election that year, took office in 2007. It was definitely a surprise result. Essentially a third party defeating a major party ticket. So yeah, the Republicans were caught off guard in Minnesota. So here's a picture of him as a freshman member of Congress from 2000. I believe this picture is from 2007. So he served in Congress for representing Minnesota's 1st District all the way from 2007 to 2019. So 12 years. And then the reason why he left office, well, he became the governor of Minnesota. So this was now when he was in Congress, what committees was he on? Well, he's on the Agriculture Committee, Committee on Veterans Affairs. And if you go to his Wikipedia page, it kind of goes through like some of his policy positions, but this guy clearly leans to the left. I would say further to the left than Joe Biden for sure. And maybe even further left than Kamala Harris. Now that said, if you look at his policy positions, like I don't see anything too out there. It's pretty okay. He wanted to raise the minimum wage. He wanted to allow Medicare to negotiate pharmaceutical drug prices. However, I think some things are revealing the fact that he has a 100% rating from Planned Parenthood, or at least he did in 2012. Also from the ACLU. He's done well with unions over the years for sure. However, he's also been seen as a bipartisan politician. Walz was ranked 7th most bipartisan House member during the 114th Congress, the most bipartisan member from Minnesota, meaning he's worked with Republicans in the past regularly. In terms of I think he got most of his attention as governor. So if you look at his time as governor, that seems to be where he's kind of maybe shifted more to the left. He's also been governor in Minnesota during a pretty tough time. The George Floyd murder, that happened when he was governor of Minnesota in 2020. Also the COVID-19 pandemic. He led the state during that tough time. And if you look at some of his accomplishments as governor, he was able to get the legislature to pass major police reform legislation in response to George Floyd's murder. Also, he was able to get extra funding for education, the legalization of recreational cannabis. Because he was a public school teacher for 20 years, he's been he's made it a priority to whenever you can make education or school lunches more available for students. He's gone all for it. He's vocally supported LGBTQ rights, labor, worker rights. He's also like a strong supporter of gun rights, although some have criticized the fact that he does want to see universal background checks and red flag laws. But that's an interesting kind of thing that makes him a little bit different, more in line, I think, with like, I would say, more rural Democrats or Midwestern Democrats. That's a big thing, though. He's from the Midwest. And he's an old white guy who leans to the left from the Midwest. I think a lot of this election will be I've said this before, but the vibes, the optics, the emotional feelings we have when we determine who we want to elect for public office. So I think a lot of people are going to see, I mean, I think that's one reason why Kamala Harris was strongly considering getting somebody younger. But regardless, like, he does kind of, like, I think a lot of people who don't know anything about him might just foresee him as like another boring old white guy like me. But, identity politics aside, which is always annoying to talk about, but we have to just because it exists. I think once people start hearing him talk, that might change. I think what was the reason why he's been such a sensation on social media has been, there have been clips of him that have gone viral, clips of him just going on rants on various corporate media outlets, but also just, his own videos he's released on his own social media. There's one where he's at the state fair with his daughter that I think really resonated with a lot of folks. There is a lot of clips of him. Actually, he's responsible more than anyone for this new branding of Republicans as, quote, weird. That whole thing started because of him. So he's a very good communicator. He's very effective with his messaging, good at talking, uses words that are not big, which is similar to Trump. Trump's a master at communication. I think so is Tim Walz in terms of just reaching ordinary people. And so once Americans hear him more, they're probably going to be more impressed, even if they disagree with him politically. Because, yeah, like I said, he does lean to the left on most issues, and even further left than Joe Biden. But if, he's debating J.D. Vance, I'm not sure exactly when the debate will be, but I think you're going to see kind of like you're going to hear a lot of populist rhetoric. And that's another thing I want to conclude by this choice of Tim Walz. This, to me, demonstrates that both Harris and the Democratic Party have acknowledged that we are in a new populist era. And finally, they have realized that, maybe Bernie Sanders was right on a lot of these things. Maybe we do need to listen more to the working class that we have abandoned for many decades. Maybe we do need to stop focusing so much on identity politics and social issues as much as economic issues and saving jobs. All those jobs lost in the Midwest in particular, all those jobs lost in rural America. I think the Democratic Party is finally starting to realize we need to reach out to these people aggressively, just like the Republican Party already has for the past 9 years with the rise of Trump. So, I think it was a smart move. If not for the populist optics alone. I think I probably missed a few things here and there, but maybe they will come up when I answer your questions here. So thanks for tuning in here. Dude, Estate, good morning. Thank you for that. Brandon. All right, let's go, Brandon. Sorry. Former Army vet, former teacher, and fantastic governor, Brandon says. That picture of him signing free school lunch. Oh, yeah, he signed a law to guarantee free school meals for all students in Minnesota. Let's see here. Let me see if I can pull that picture up. For you. Oh, okay. I know which one. I've seen this picture. Yeah. Wow, what a picture. This is the one I think you're talking about. That picture there. Yeah, that's definitely gone viral as well. Okay. Everybody keeps adding a T to his name. It's just a Walz. See, hardly anyone knows about this guy. True dark horse candidate here. He was governor when the Minnesota Vikings, go Chiefs. I know he's probably a Vikings fan. Replaced the Metrodome with US Bank Stadium. Also surprised Kamala didn't pick one of the squad. I'm not too surprised on that. I think she was pretty set on getting one of those Midwestern governors for sure. From my impression, Walz comes off as a New Deal, progressive, school lunch, public schools, and unions. Yeah, definitely. I think that's a fair analysis, Waika. And somebody here as a Pats fan. Boo, Chiefs suck. Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm wearing I didn't know I was live streaming today. I just chose my Chiefs shirt just, because it was at the top of the pile of clothes in my dresser. But thank you for the kind words, Bill Law. I appreciate that. Tim Kaine vibes, not at all. Tim Kaine was definitely kind of like a more establishment type. I would say very moderate, even for the time. Like today, I would say Tim Kaine actually leans a little bit more to the right. A lot of people who are saying, Tim Walz is he's too much of a quote progressive, or I've heard the socialism word thrown at him a lot. I mean, those words really don't mean much. They've been weaponized so much that I don't know what that means. If you just look at his policy positions, I would say his policy positions are more in line with the majority of Americans than I think you realize, where Tim Kaine might have been more out of touch. For example, a quick example, an example I bring up a lot is legalization of cannabis. This is not something Tim Kaine was for when he was a running mate back in 2016. A different time, but still, at the time, cannabis was legal in a few states, a handful of states. Liam, slightly unrelated, but would you ever consider having an online debate with another creator on something political/historical? Keep up the good work. Thank you very much, Liam. Mostly no, because debates are just pure rhetoric, and I'm not very good at rhetoric. I'm not good at talking. It's amazing that I do communication for a living because I had a speech impediment when I was a kid. I had to see a speech pathologist, for crying out loud. I've always struggled with communication. I don't even know how to talk to my wife, Mrs. Beat. Sometimes I make her upset because I say something stupid. So why would I do well in a debate? I probably would not, even if I was right, even if I had the best arguments, I probably would still lose the debate. That said, a lot of people really want to see me debate Chris from Vlogging Through History about the Electoral College. I reached out to him. He's not sure he wants to do it. I'll leave it at that. That's one thing I probably would be comfortable debating, just because I'm very confident with my ability to debate in that situation. Chance-a-mania, thank you. Oh, Andy Bashir. Yeah, Kentucky never gets love unless it's like, I don't know. I guess there's some pretty prominent politicians from there. Rand Paul is pretty influential. Yeah. The great state of Kentucky needs a president for sure. Oh, speaking of which, Tim Walz is the third running mate, potential vice president from Minnesota of the last 6 Democratic major party candidates. So Hubert Humphrey, of course, was the vice president to Lyndon Johnson in the 60s. And then we had Walter Mondale, the late, great Walter Mondale, not to be confused with the late, great Hannibal Lecter. Walter Mondale, I think one of the best he's probably the best vice president in American history, was from Minnesota. So yeah, Tim Walz is the third. Now, which state has had the most vice presidents? I believe it's New York. You can fact check me on that, but I believe it's New York. But the fact that Minnesota has been so dominant, yeah, that's interesting. The Judo Joker. Hey, thank you. Enlisted. Yes. Enlisted. That's an important distinction. Strong supporter of Ukraine. Yep. I would say Israel Palestine. I would say has had very reasonable takes because it's not like they. I mean, they've. I would say Walz has both expressed sympathy for those in Gaza, but at the same time, he was after October 7th. He had a lot of strong words to condemn Hamas. So, yes, moderate on guns, great on LGBT plus, abortion, pass free school lunches, and he's not Shady Vance. Okay. XONNYY says, with this choice, Minnesota also makes history by having country's first female Native American governor with Peggy Flanagan, who is lieutenant governor now, who now will be the governor. Thank you for bringing that up. Yes, absolutely. I don't know much about Peggy, but. Oh, okay. Yeah. A lot of people in Kentucky want to keep Beshear there. Same thing with Shapiro. Shapiro is doing pretty well, I think, according to most Pennsylvanians. So maybe they're okay with him sticking around. I hope you're having a good day too, Haunted Sound. Thank you. Oh, well, thank you for the kind words. I remind you of your high school AP World History teacher. I'm glad. Oh, and he was awesome. So that's good. I'm glad to hear that he wasn't a jerk. Thanks for the kind words. Unrelated, but Beshear 2032. I think Beshear definitely has this very contagious energy. I don't necessarily think he's the best public speaker. I think sometimes he's a little awkward, but maybe that's part of the charm. So when I was watching him, that's what I noticed. I think that Tim Walz just talks better, but some of that just comes with experience. I mean, Beshear's not much older than me. He's in his 40s. He's a young dude. He'll get better. EZIC Corporation. Oh, you accidentally donated twice. Well, I'll have to definitely answer your question. You're not a dummy. You're a smart person. Do you think Biden's legacy is forever tarnished for dropping out so late? Thanks for the kind words. No, I don't think so. I think it wasn't too late. If it would have been October, that would have been an October surprise for sure, but that would have been too late. Yeah, for sure. But him dropping out July 21st was, in my view, not too late because it was before the ballots had been printed. It was, 3-4 weeks before the Democratic National Convention. So I think that's why his legacy won't be tarnished because of that. Oh, yes, Nathan. Hey, good to see you here. When can we expect me and Professor Lichtman to make our predictions on who will win the presidency? Well, and that was definitely before Biden dropped out. We were planning on August. We emailed back and forth. Honestly, the stock market crash yesterday also adds a little bit of flavor to my predictions because I look at economic data. Professor Lichtman looks at other stuff. So we might wait a little bit longer. I would say it's still at the latest September, but I haven't been in touch with him for a few weeks. So I need to reach back out to him and figure out a date. It might be better to wait a little bit longer, although he usually makes his final predictions around this time. And he's already been leaning towards, I think he's still saying that Harris is going to win last time I checked. Although it's not, things can still change on his side as well. He acknowledges that. Oh, I'm sorry you're sad that Beshear didn't get it. Yeah, he also had a lot of supporters, I noticed, on social media as well. I think what's interesting is now the Republican and Democratic parties, they have access to data, just like every corporation does. It's so lovely. Every private corporation has access to all of our data now. And so they see pretty easily who has grassroots support, who has genuine excitement online. And they can just make the distinction between genuine support, real people versus bots or people paid to post support for certain candidates. Let's say Russia or let's say China. And so because they have access to this data, I think that's a big reason why Tim Walz was chosen. Although there was also a lot of grassroots support for Beshear, so it's important to acknowledge that. Alex, hey. Looking California and filling Minnesota. Yeah, I've already been seeing that float around on social media as well. So yeah, you agree that it's a good pick. All right. Yeah, I think a lot of people seem to feel the same. Connor says, do you think if Trump loses in 2024 that he'll claim fraud like he did in 2020? Unfortunately, yes. I can predict that now. It's going to happen. We should make sure that we save our republic, though, in case that does happen. Couches from my hometown in Minnesota, former history teacher in National Guard during 9/11. That's right. It was during 9/11. I think he first enlisted in like the year I was born, 1981. But yeah, he was still there. Someone to represent agricultural America. Okay, yes. So you must be from Mankato, I assume. Mankato represent. If Bernie was the nominee in 2016, Trump would have been destroyed in the election. Not destroyed, but I do think Bernie would have won. It's important to acknowledge, and I'm probably going to make a video about this one day, is so many, some estimates say at least 1 million, maybe even up to 2 million people in the United States, 2 million Americans who were Bernie supporters, Bernie Sanders supporters in the primaries, then went on in the general election to vote for Donald Trump. That's the group that I think has been the enigma for many years for the Democratic Party, and they finally figured it out. Oh, we need to reach these people. Actually, a lot of those people now are just vote third party. They are fed up entirely with the duopoly, but I get it. But Dylan says, do you think he's a better pick than Shapiro? That's a great question. I think he is, but barely. Shapiro was also a really strong pick. Shapiro, I mean, he's also an incredible speaker. He's beloved in Pennsylvania. He comes across as more moderate, even though he leans to the left pretty solidly as well. But yeah, so it's close, but I still think Tim Walz has the edge for the reasons I mentioned before. Fun fact, Christopher, hey, Trump and Vance are 38 years apart in age, while Harris and Walz are just over 6 months apart in age. That is a fun fact. I love those fun facts. What is Walz's stance on defunding the police? He has never used that language as far as I can tell. However, he did sign legislation that reformed how the police were being funded and how resources were being used for law enforcement throughout the state of Minnesota. So I think the language you use is important. If you just say defund the police, that sounds really bad. And most Americans will be like, what the heck are you talking about? We love the police generally. We love the police, not the band. Well, the band too. We love the police. I just released a video about the police over on my other channel. The beat goes on if you want to check it out. But yeah, that language is problematic and turned people away in 2020. I remember after the George Floyd protests. But regardless, I think he's had a pretty popular stance within his state of Minnesota. Nathan again, 1968, Reagan versus Humphrey versus Rockefeller versus Humphrey. Also, 1976, incumbent Reagan, 2 terms, choices. Ruben Askew and James Buckley. Tell us your vote. Oh gosh. I really liked Reagan in the 70s for sure. I think he was sorely needed during that time. However, in the long run, I don't know. Maybe not so much. Humphrey, I wasn't the biggest fan of, but nice dude. I'm not going to share. I don't know enough about Askew and Buckley, though. I'm sorry, Nathan. Flex Appeal by Chastity. Hey, what song do you plan on using for your 2024 presidential elections American history video? I don't know yet, but great question. However, They Not Like Us by Kendrick Lamar is getting I'm getting a lot of suggestions for that already. To be frank with you, and to be Mr. Beat with you, I don't think that song is that catchy. The lyrics are, obviously it's a diss track against Drake, so it's easy to get into the lyrics, but as far as the music, the beat, everything like that, I say beat because I'm Mr. Beat. It's kind of mediocre. Let's just say it. So I want to make sure it's actually a solid song too. Just because it's the most popular song, it's not guaranteed to be used as well. So we'll see. Great question. I'm not going to say your name, but from Minnesota. Not stoked that we have to share this man with the country now. Showed amazing leadership during COVID and the Floyd riots. Solid pick. Thanks for sharing that. Ridge, thank you. Good to see you here. Love keeping up with the current events with your vids. Thoughts on RFK's bear story from this weekend? Dumped a bear carcass in Central Park. I'm just something that is kind of refreshing about RFK Jr. Is that he's just like, well, the media is going to break this scandal about me. I might as well just, beat them to it and just announce it. Like, be completely transparent about everything. And he's very transparent, and I appreciate that about him. But it's a crazy story that, yeah, I don't know much about it, but apparently he dumped a bear carcass in Central Park. You can look it up. I'm not joking. Well, thank you, Oshawott King. Keep up the amazing content from Puerto Rico. Heck yeah. So this person, Dylan. Hey, Dylan. They like Walz, but their favorite pick was actually Buttigieg. So Buttigieg is, the Secretary of Transportation for Biden, ran for president in 2020. I think he is also just a phenomenal speaker and communicator. I think that, I don't know if the country is ready for the first gay president or vice president, but that would have been definitely historic if she did pick him and they got elected. Yeah, Trump is technically a boomer. He's a very old boomer. Biden is silent generation, so he's a young silent generation. And Walz and Harris are young boomers. Yes. Thank you for the super chat, Veggie T 2009. Oh, wow. I wonder if the Republican Party will try to criticize Walz for teaching in China. That's interesting, calling him a spy. Jade, thank you. Walz is also a right to repair advocate. Yes, that's definitely something I strongly advocate for as well. And it's also bipartisan. Right to repair. Yes. I know I've heard both people that lean to the right and left that are strongly for that as well. That's awesome. Great to hear it. B-Man says one great aspect of Walz is that he can use his military service against Trump. The fact that Tim Walz voluntarily served when Trump dodged the draft. Very good point. Oshawott King again. The only thing I know from Walz up until now was a video where he was replacing the flag of Minnesota with a new one. Yeah, he was really, outside of Minnesota, hardly anyone knew who he was, myself included. So, it's hard to keep track of all local politicians. My father-in-law was like, who? When he just heard the news this morning. So yeah, it's kind of crazy how quickly Walz rose to, he still has to introduce himself for that reason. There's so many Americans that still don't know about him. Maximilian, do you trust Kamala Harris having the nuclear football, or Trump for that matter? I don't trust anyone. I think a small group of people having access to it is better than just one. You got to have safeguards in place. So yeah, it's just terrifying to think that one person can say, hey, I'm going to drop a nuclear weapon on a group of people. So that's a more broad answer to that question for you. Hey, Jenny Rose is here. Member for 3 months. Should do the Thomas Jefferson Hour podcast with Clay Jenkins. And I've heard of it. Yeah, if they want to reach out, I would love to do that. I still defend Thomas Jefferson on a lot of stuff, which I guess makes me very controversial myself. How dare you defend Thomas Jefferson? Charles, thank you. Which of the Buttigieg, Beshear, Shapiro, Kelly, Warnock, Whitmer, Baldwin, and Cooper will be in the Harris-Walz cabinet? I don't think any of them. Possibly of all those, maybe Whitmer. Buttigieg too. I think Buttigieg will stay in the cabinet if assuming Harris is elected. However, I think he will be promoted to Secretary of State. That's my prediction. Thank you for sharing your opinion, and thank you for the super chat, Charles. Oh, we got a European here. Pokemon. Hi, European here. Love learning about U.S. politics and history, so just saying thanks, Mr. Beat. Well, thank you. PXG says, love your videos. Tim Walz was my top pick. Great choice for Kamala. Use Kendrick Lamar's Not Like Us. Okay, see? I get so many people that have already suggested that song for that. Derek, hey! What's your view on the global stock market currently dropping? I'm very concerned about it. Oh, it's always concerning. I haven't followed it that closely today because I've been caught up with the news about Walz. Yeah, let's see. Let me check my own stocks. Let's see if how much money I've lost. So apparently today I've gained money. I don't know if that's for everybody. How are the how are the stocks doing overall? I haven't been checking. Oh, stocks have been rebounding. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it was a bad day yesterday, but hopefully it's not like a trend that keeps on going. I mentioned the Democratic Farmer Labor Party earlier as a Minnesotan. I think there's an interesting story behind why our Democratic Party is called that. Yeah, it's not. It's important to say that it's an offshoot of the Democratic Party. It's what started out as a what do they call that when it's a fusion? Yeah, fusion party, and then it just kind of like stayed. It's been around for a long time, going back to the days of I think back to the Great Depression, right? If I remember correctly. I do need to make a video about it. I need to research it more. Thank you for the suggestion there, Brandon. Let's go, Brandon. Okay, sorry. Every time I see the name Brandon, I'm sorry. It just comes out. Sad no Pete Buttigieg on the ticket, but Walz is still a great choice. Thank you for sharing that, Charlie. Malik says, is the election Trump's to lose? I think it's still going to be fairly close. I do think that I predicted that Kamala Harris would poll better, way better than Biden, and she has. But polls are one thing. We'll see who shows up. We'll also see how the debate performances go. I think that will actually have a lot of influence and have a strong effect this time around because you have new candidates, you have new people. The only person now that's returning from the 4 people on the major party tickets is Trump. Everybody already knows Trump at this point. So J.D. Vance has to prove himself. Tim Walz has to prove himself. And, of course, Kamala Harris does. She's already been out there on the campaign trail hard, though. I think she's already, making her case pretty plainly so that your average American can get the message. Mr. Albert, what a great username. When will we start seeing cabinet picks? I don't think you're going to see that until either right before the election or after. I would say Biden will have a strong influence on who she decides to have around her in her cabinet, but also not just the cabinet, but all advisors, all staff. Jenny Roses again. The main reason why Shapiro wasn't picked was his religion. Yeah, it's sad to say he's Jewish, and we still have that anti-Semitism that just will not go away in this country. And same thing with people that are prejudiced against homosexuals or anybody from the LGBT plus community. It's something that we definitely need to break that glass ceiling. That's one that crossed my mind that he's Jewish, so automatically you got these people that will be mentioning Soros and all that crap. So that's sad to say. Even if you don't like Trump's personality, you should still vote for him because of policy. I agree. Policy is probably way more important overall. However, you can't completely discount personality because a lot of what makes a good president is their personality. Inflation being so high, I would say is the main reason why Biden has been so unpopular, especially over the last 2 years. The border has been an issue, but if you actually look at the policies of the Biden administration, they've been very similar to Trump. So I think if you're saying, I'm voting for a new policy on immigration, you're not, because they're actually pretty similar, which might be surprising for you, Lions 1956, if you actually knew that. Oh, and also, presidents don't control the economy that much. Sorry. I'm making a video about that as well coming up. Argonne, so glad Shapiro wasn't picked. Him being vice president would be disastrous for the people of Palestine. Okay. I bet you there's probably more people that share your sentiment. Bass World, thank you. Do you see J.D. Vance as a potential Dan Quayle if elected? He's just way smarter than Dan Quayle. I think I don't know. I see him sticking around politics for a long time, even if he's really unpopular right now. I mean, look at Ted Cruz, for crying out loud. Yeah, I would say Walz is a stronger pick than JD Vance overall. Honestly, it looks like you have spent too much time in an echo chamber. This pick sucks. I mean, this might be projection here. I don't spend much time like looking at the same sources. I don't like watch the same pundits. You know, a lot of people watch the same pundits. Like I use something called ground news, where I try to get how both media outlets from the right and the left are spinning certain things. I think the people who are just like, oh, it's pretty obvious that Kamala is going to lose. I think that's a red flag to me that you're probably a little bit out of touch, that you're probably pretty deep in your echo chamber. Yeah, so El Perro, like I think I want you to remember this moment and look back on it someday, and hopefully you do some reflection and like, oh, maybe I'm the one who's deep in my echo chamber. Ethan, thank you. Shapiro's Middle East stances would scare away younger people, younger voters. People have war fatigue right now. They certainly do, both on the left and the right. On the right, you hear a lot of people saying, why are we still giving weapons to Ukraine? On the left, you're saying, why are we still giving weapons to Israel? Yeah, so I understand. This is probably Walz is going to have more appeal with younger voters. Walz let Minnesota burn. Lost $250 million of relief and has led to increased energy and drain of middle class. Walz is a great pick for the GOP. Terrible pick. Okay, interesting. All right, we'll see, Knight. I don't know about this $250 millions of relief. I need to investigate that more. Thanks for bringing it to our attention. Nathan, who do you think will take their Democratic Republican torch once the Orange Man and Harris are done? I've mentioned this in previous streams. It's so you can go back and watch them. At this point, I think I'm starting to get too repetitive. But thank you, though, Nathan. Connor, while Virginia had the most presidents born there with 8, New York has had the most vice presidents with 8 born. Okay, I was right. I was right about New York having the most vice presidents. Yay. Ushawat King again. The students and citizens of Bangladesh just overthrew their government. Breaking news. Okay. That's a big deal. We'll check in with that after I get off the live stream here. I'm biased, Will. I think that it's awesome that a former, not just teacher, but social studies teacher could be the vice president. Okay? I generally don't get excited about any politician at all, but all of us can be tribal. All of us can be like, oh, you're one of us. I think I like you. So I have to admit my bias here. It doesn't mean I agree with Walz on every single position he has, but if he's from Nebraska and he's a former social studies teacher, come on, I'm going to be biased. How much of Biden's cabinet would Harris keep? I already answered this earlier, but I think at least some of it. Thank you, Wendy, for that. Wow, that's a $9.99 super sticker. I appreciate that. Tyler really liked Nikki Haley. I understand. I think Haley would have had a much better chance to defeat the Democrats than Trump. I was surprised, how quickly the Republican Party turned against her. Also surprised how she all of a sudden just switched and said, okay, I'm endorsing Donald Trump. Yeah, I mean, it's I would say if you don't know who to vote for, go to isidewith.com and then it will tell you. Otherwise, if you live in a swing state, it's always lesser of two evils. Almost always. Geo, thank you. Video idea, every president's vice president announcement or how each president campaigned. All right, I like it. Walz in a way is like Bernie. Love your videos. Thank you, Justin. Appreciate that. Weird question, but B-U-T-T, who is Tim Walz? Oh, I already answered that. Thank you. Andre's here. Hey, Andre's going to be in an upcoming video about what makes a good president. It's going to come out next Friday, so be on the lookout for that. He had a really good answer to the question. Everybody should go subscribe to his channel. It's a political history channel like mine. It's awesome. Andre says, feels like there has been a massive vibe shift in the last month. Most excited I've seen people my age about politics in a long time. Yeah, I mean, Andre is a youngin. He's much younger than me, so he would probably be more familiar with this. But I would say just, I interact with a lot of older people these days, just because. Well, when I say older people, I mean people my age and older. Just because I no longer teach in the classroom. So the younger people that I interact with usually is like right now in the comment sections of my videos, the chats, or the Discord server. Everybody should check out the Discord server, by the way. So yeah, I've seen the excitement online, whereas people my age and older are just like, okay, yeah, well, at least it's not Biden. Veneco Conquistador. I love Walz. Voting Harris in November. Had it been Shapiro, I would have voted American Solidarity, another third party, which wouldn't spoil the Democrats since I live in Indiana. Okay, interesting. See, I'm learning stuff here because maybe Walz is going to attract a lot of those protesters who were protesting Israel, defending Palestinians in Gaza. Definitely. Thanks for sharing that. Lars says, Norwegian here. Thanks for giving me the weird flex of naming every U.S. president in chronological order. Okay, that's awesome. Doing that in Norway. I'm sure you got a lot of weird looks like, why are you doing this? You live in a wonderful country. My good friend just visited there. Thanks for the kind words. Sailing South. Good to see you again. Seeing people online criticizing Walz for his response during the Floyd protest riots. Lots of fiery pictures that I think will stay in people's heads. Could this point of attack be effective? I just don't. I haven't seen that yet, but maybe you could be right. I think a lot of people appreciated his response, especially considering like George Floyd was murdered in his state when he was governor at the time. So, but yeah, you might be onto something here. Dawson, how long until we get an atheist major candidate? It could be a while. I think we're first going to have a Jewish major party candidate before that happens, and maybe even Muslim. Like one word that's even a dirtier word than communism in the United States still seems to be atheism. I know, it's crazy. Fanta consumer, thank you. As a Pennsylvania resident, I'm stoked for this ticket. Okay, thanks for the feedback there. High Tech Turtle, will you make a video going over policies for both election picks up to help the undecided voters pick? I hadn't planned on it, but maybe a live stream, and I might be collaborating with others to do that. So, Dan, thank you. How much of the popular vote will RFK get? I'm still predicting between 4 and 5%. That's what I'm predicting. If he gets 5%, he gets to be on the thumbnail of my 2024 election video. That's my rule. If you get at least 5% of the popular vote, you get to be on the thumbnail. And remember, it's not just about, like, a lot of people realize that he's not going to win, but if you can get that threshold of 5%, you get extra federal funding for the next election for your political party. He's an independent, so it would have to be his political party to choose. I don't know what that would be. Bear Claws, I think Kamala has it, but it's going to be a worse January 6th due to the recent attempt on Trump. It will motivate violence on that side of the aisle. I sure hope not. But thank you, Bear Claws. Cody, thank you. Shapiro also had a sexual harassment cover-up. Oh, did he? I didn't know about that. And look up the Alan Greenberg case. There's quite a bit there on Shapiro, unfortunately. Well, I know that Walz has a DUI from the 90s. However, I think the American public tends to be more forgiving of that, even though I think driving while under the influence is a pretty horrible thing to do. But I don't know much about the situation, whether he or how much he actually had drank or any of that. So I'm sure we'll find out the details in the coming weeks, though. I'm sure it's all going to come out. Well, thank you for your first donation ever, Jake. I appreciate you viewing for a long time as well. Okay. I'm curious about if the debates will happen with Trump backing out of ABC. I still think they will. Do you expect the DNC and her rise in polls to pressure Trump to jump back into the debate? That's why. I think he's going to have to, based on the pressure of, he's like, I got to do whatever I can to, get elected. Thoughts on Chevron deference? I've gone into this in another stream. So I won't answer that now. So the second part of your question, Spawn Bob, I'm wondering what you think of the lasting effects of the religious and MAGA rhetoric on the GOP. It's definitely making it, I think, a little bit more extreme, but it's only a certain wing of the GOP. It's not the whole party. And remember, there's elements of Trumpism that actually have pushed the Republican Party left instead of right. I think that's something that not a lot of people have brought up that probably you should investigate yourself if you don't believe what I just said, because that is kind of a crazier claim to make. Trump advance are going to hound on Walz for allowing illegal immigrants into his state. No, they're legal. It was all legal. So if you can prove that there was illegal immigrants, then oh, you're talking about refugees. Well, refugees is different than illegal immigrants. You might do a little bit of research into the refugee process. We do accept refugees in the United States of America. I mean, there were refugees we used to turn down. Remember Ricky Tikki Bobby Wobbin? Remember? In the 1930s, we turned down the Jewish refugees who were trying to flee Nazi Germany. So that's why we definitely, if someone's a refugee, we try to take them in, process them. Oh, great question. Do you think Trump will implement Project 2025? I don't think he will, most of it. Personally, I'm not too afraid of that. However, if the right person becomes his advisor that really wants this stuff, that's a strong possibility. He could, I mean, but I don't think he really cares much about Project 2025. So it does matter if you get people around him who are yes men, who are like, oh, whatever, you're so great, President Trump. If they praise him so much, then he will listen to them, and they might be able to influence him to do some of these things in Project 2025. I have read much of Project 2025. I'm currently doing a podcast series with a bunch of colleagues, and that should be out in the coming weeks. So look forward to that. How similar is Walz to Bernie's policies, 1 to 100? I would say, just first glance, probably 85 to 90% similar. What's my opinion on Trump and Biden? I mean, if you've been watching my channel for any amount of time, you'll know that I have criticized both. We'll leave it at that. Riley, thank you. What's your favorite accomplishments of Walz? Yeah, I think what he's done with school lunches there in Minnesota, that's a big deal. I'm a big fan of that. Yeah, just because I have a lot of super chats here I'm trying to get to, I'm going to I'll leave it at that. Big Cheese, this is the most excited I've ever been for a presidential election. Last time I felt this was the 2016 primary with Bernie. So happy she didn't go with Shapiro. Thanks for sharing that, Big Cheese. How important is experience for you in voting? To me, it's, I would say it's 50-50. I think sometimes experience can be overrated. As long as, I mean, when we say experience, I mean, I'm talking specifically about political experience. So there's a difference between like just life experience, and political experience. Like I get the appeal of somebody like Donald Trump if he's been out of politics his whole life until 2015, or somebody like, JD Vance too has not been in politics that long. So I want to make sure I'm sympathetic to that side because yeah, sometimes it's nice to have outsiders in there to shake things up for sure. Bob Pants, Sponge Square. If elected, Walz would be the first Lutheran VP. Oh yeah, a lot of Lutherans up in Minnesota for sure. Thanks for sharing that fact. Ethan, do you think it will hurt Harris if Trump has his solo debate first? Possibly. Do you think Vance will debate Walz? I think Vance will. Vance will definitely not chicken out. I mean, I'm 90% sure he won't chicken out. This has been a surprising election in so many ways, so I don't want to speak in absolutes, Think Trump is ducking Harris from a debate. I kind of get that impression a little bit, but I think the backlash, all the flack he's getting might change his mind. Apiragon, thank you. Didn't you rank I side with as the least accurate in your political compass test? Oh, I should clarify. Yes, it's not that good with trying to determine where you are in your political stances. However, in terms of like trying to figure out who to vote for in local elections and national elections, I think it's definitely the best we have, because what it does is it looks at the policy positions, platforms, agendas publicly stated on the websites of all the candidates, and then it tries to line that up with the questions. So thank you for bringing that up. Actually, I side with, just as a general way to determine where you are politically, I think is not that good. Yeah. Remember that live stream I did? That's where I was like, what the heck is this? Yeah. Ghost Wheel, thank you. Do you trust either side with the powers SCOTUS granted POTUS? No, I don't. I think the president in general has way too much power. I would like to see the president have a lot less power. Oh, I mentioned the DUI. I think this it will have a slight effect for sure, but I mean, we live in the year 2024 where a convicted felon, Donald Trump, is the nominee. So do you really think people are going to start caring about crimes? You know, unless it's like a serious crime like murder. For Trump, it was fraud. It's a minor crime in terms of felonies. So yeah, like same with DUI. I just don't think it's like, we are so polarized that I don't think it's going to have as much effect as it would in a quote normal election year. Tristan, thank you to everyone saying Walz let Minnesota burn. That is such a gross over exaggeration. Not the gotcha you think it is. Walz light touch was actually better for racial tensions. That's what I was going to say. That was the vibe I got before, so I was a little surprised by that. Thank you so much for that super sticker. SI Vlog is here, the legendary. He's been with this channel for a long time. Straight out of England. With the encouraging of looking at different sources, tone down the fears of both parties about democracy being under threat. Absolutely. Just all this sensationalism you're hearing on both sides is ridiculous. We're not headed to civil war. We're not headed to World War III. Those who want you to believe that are trying to profit from hate and division. Thanks for the super chat, Cyflog. Carl, not sure why Walz is getting hate for his response to the Floyd protest. To me, Mayor of Minneapolis' response was worse. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm not too familiar with that. Cole, when I become God King of the United States, would you run my Department of Education? Sure. Yeah, I'm going to hold you to it, Cole. Charles, Buttigieg 2028. I'm from Indiana, so I love Mayor Pete. Okay, here's the thing. It depends on how it goes with Kamala Harris. If she gets elected. If Trump wins re-election and Kamala Harris loses, I think there's a really strong case for Buttigieg in 2028. Yeah. Michael, thank you. Republicans in Minnesota used George Floyd response, quote, slow National Guard rollout as an attack, but I think Harris might benefit from that, to be honest. All right, thanks for sharing that. Thank you, Rob. Kivo, long time viewer, not sure if you've already answered, but historically speaking, are vice presidents really influential administrations? It depends on which vice president we're talking about. Who would you say is the most influential? Yeah, Dick Cheney, for sure. Walter Mondale's another one. But this is a recent phenomenon. If you go before Walter Mondale, the vast majority of vice presidents were not that involved with whatever the president was doing. This is why, you know, someone like Calvin Coolidge was just up in the middle of nowhere fishing in New England somewhere. And when Warren Harding died, and he had no idea that Warren Harding had died for like almost 24 hours. They didn't know where he was. They had no way of reaching him by phone. And so they were like, oh, we gotta let him know he's the next president. Because a lot of times vice presidents, they just, I mean, there's not much for them to do. It's all publicity stunts, basically. Photo ops. Emperor Tiger Star. Look in California, filling Minnesota. Soundgarden. Oh, yeah, Soundgarden 2024. That's awesome. That's what that came from. Okay, thanks for clarifying that. Subscribe to Emperor Tiger Star. Great channel. Trey says, surprised Harris didn't choose Kelly. Yeah, Kelly would have been another strong pick. I think he, especially since he's from a swing state. Yeah, I mean, I think maybe there were issues with him with labor unions is what I was hearing on social media. Chase. I still don't know. I already answered that. Sorry, but thank you for the super chat. Connie, thank you. Wow. Thanks for the congratulations and super chat. Longtime viewer, love your vids. Excited for Harris Walz Democratic ticket. Also first time donator towards their campaign. If Trump loses, would he stop being in politics or run for president again? I do think that he would probably not run for president again in 2028. By that time, he would be much older, and I just think he would be kind of done with it personally. He would be probably trying to still influence things, obviously, but yeah, I think this is it for him. Rob, I'm in support of the ticket, mostly likely to keep Lena Khan. I don't know who that is, but thanks for sharing. Adam, who takes over as the face of the GOP if Trump loses? That's a darn good question. I don't think it's Nikki Haley. I don't think it's Nikki Haley at all. I used to think that until recently. Yeah, I don't know. Adam, I have no idea. Because I just don't see... I've seen the flaws of, Ron DeSantis, although it still could be him. He could redeem his image a little bit. Vivek Ramaswamy, I used to think maybe. J.D. Vance now seems to be really unpopular. So I don't know. That's a great question. Oh, yeah, Bush and Cheney both had DUIs. That's right. Fix, thank you. What are the keys to victory for both sides? For me, Professor Lichtman, of course, has his 13 keys to victory. But for me, it's if the misery level index and the GDP per capita both. So look at both those two things. Misery level is inflation rate going up or down, unemployment rate plus unemployment rate going up or down for the previous year. If both inflation and unemployment rate go down from the previous year, that means the misery index level goes down. That means the incumbent has the advantage. If it goes up, then the challenger has the advantage. And then if you also account for GDP per capita growth, if that goes up from the previous year, the incumbent has the advantage. If it goes down, the challenger has the advantage. I will reveal the current situation when we do that live stream with Alan Lichtman, Professor Lichtman, which I said was going to be this month, but maybe it won't be until September at this point, because things are it's just a crazy election. It really is. It's a historic, dare I say, historic election. Hive Lake, you should use Please, Please, Please by I'm definitely familiar with this song. You want me to use it, please? Are you saying please? Thank you for the kind words. Major Risker says Walz is apparently the first candidate on a presidential ticket since Carter to not go to law school. Holy freaking crap. What a fun fact that is as well. Will Bangladesh have any effect on this election? It depends on how the Biden administration, I think, reacts to it. Oh, nice. Represent. All right, I'm just going to do a few more, then I'm going to get back to work here. Thanks for being here. If Trump loses, do you think the GOP will reevaluate their approach and dump MAGA, considering this would be twice in a row Trump cost them an election? That's another reason why I think Trump would not run in 2028. I think the Republican Party may not be as open to him anymore. Oh, it's Ricky. Again. I hate when people say Trump will be a fascist dictator. Yeah, I don't think Trump is a fascist. I don't think he likes it when people praise him. Only president that could have gone fascist was FDR due to World War II and Great Depression. You know what? He was so popular. I bet if he wanted to be a fascist due to the time, he probably could have tried for sure. I don't think he wanted to, though. Our government has checks and balances to prevent that. You darn straight it does, Ricky. You are totally right, and thank goodness for that. Zemal? Hello from... I don't know what flag that represents. I'm so sorry. Who is better from for the Muslim community? Well, for the vice president picks, I mean, yeah, Walz compared to Shapiro for sure, I would say. If you're talking specifically about the Muslim communities that live in Palestine and Gaza, yeah, Hot take, Pence on January 6th is the most influential VP. Yeah, I mean, I think Pence undoubtedly elevated his status as legendary on January 6th. You know, even though I disagree with him on most policies, Pence was courageous on January 6th, and forever we should be grateful for him to, you know, stand up for the Constitution on that day. Mega Titan 64 says, I'm so excited for Walz. The difference between Vance's and Walz's climate policy is night and day. Yeah, that's an important distinction. Forward Party, they're pushing down ballots in 24. I don't know. Yeah, they've mostly been supporting Democrats, but I did see them support a few Republicans and third-party candidates. I haven't looked at it closely, though, this year yet. Barry Claus, again, can you make her do a video on how to run for office, House or Senate? It seems unattainable for normal Americans. This is a wonderful idea. I'm going to write this down so I don't forget. I love this idea for a video. Thank you, Bear Claus. Walz once away with the Electoral College that hurts. Oh, Sean, do you know who I am? I hate the Electoral College, so sounds good to me. Ethan, what do you think about RFK? Oh, I already mentioned that earlier. Ben, I'm a Gen Z teacher running for State Senate in Florida. Awesome. I influenced you to do so. Holy crap. Well, good luck to you. Unless you want to be an authoritarian. No, I'm just kidding. How will Walz affect down ballot races, and is Florida flippable? Ben thinks it is. I think abortion being on the ballot is going to help Democrats for sure. I think it will be definitely closer in Florida in 2024 than it was the last two elections. That's what I'm predicting. Thank you, Mr. Big Bucks Tunes and Irving. Oh, even though you have a question here. Why don't you teach anymore? Because I make more money teaching on YouTube than I do in the classroom. Irving, I'm not sure if you're from the United States of America, but if you're not, here in the United States, teachers get paid crap. They work long hours. They get paid crap. It's probably the same reason why Tim Walz left teaching. Although I did love it. I do miss it sometimes. I might go back to it, especially if I get canceled. Speaking of canceled, I'm not canceled yet. Mr. Beast still, you think Mr. Beast would be canceled by this point, but no. The kids aren't falling for that stuff, even though maybe they should. Have you heard about this? Mr. Beast has been getting a lot of flack in the last couple of weeks. Anyway, I'm caught up on Super Chats. Thanks for being here. I hope that I made any sense going over Tim Walz. Later today, Kamala Harris will be presenting a video announcing her pick. And then there's the rally in Philadelphia tonight. Let me know in the comments if you didn't catch this live, what your thoughts are about Tim Walz. Again, I want to stress that, I try to be nonpartisan on this channel. I'm not registered Republican or Democrat. I've been unaffiliated my entire life. I often vote for third parties. But as a social studies teacher, it's hard for me not to be biased to support a social studies teacher. So I hope you can understand that. I think Tim Walz, even my bias aside, was probably a good choice for Harris as her running mate. All right. And then I'm going to be live tonight again, probably during the rally that Harris is doing in Philadelphia, because I'm going to be on Mr. Terry's channel. We rescheduled the Risk game on his channel at 7 p.m. Central. What is that? 6 p.m. Mountain Time, 8 p.m. Eastern. So if you want to catch that, me and the Fat Electrician and Vlogging Through History, maybe Drew Durnell, we're all gonna be playing a game of Risk. I've never played Risk before in my entire life, so I'm going to be playing tonight for the first time. If you want to watch me get embarrassed, thanks for being here. Have a good day.